Welcome to the Will and Aaron Show with William Kramer, my co-host Aaron Bontrager. We cover local sports, including the NIC and NLC conferences, plus teams in St. Joseph and Elkhart counties. We cover college and pro sports. Today we're going to recap high school football sectional openers and preview high school football sectional semifinal matchups, as well as talk about the IHSAA other fall sports tournaments, discuss college football, the NFL, MLB, and the NBA. So, Aaron, let's get started with our topic number one, high school football sectional recaps. And in Class 3A sectional 26, West Noble and Marion. Marion came out in the first quarter, and Bryce Lassane scored on a 1-yard touchdown. Unfortunately for the Knights, some bad news later in that first half. The quarterback got hurt and did not return to the game. And that was what turned the tide. And from there on, West Noble was able to take control of that game. They scored on a 27-yard touchdown pass in the second quarter. A 3-yard touchdown run from Seth Pruitt put the Chargers up 13-7. They missed the PAT. In the fourth quarter, West Noble converted a huge 4th down and 5 on the same drive. After they converted the 4th down play, Drew Yates threw an 8-yard touchdown pass to put the game out of reach. Now, Marion did tack on a late touchdown pass by sophomore quarterback Bratton Brooks. The key stats of the game were Pruitt rushing for 138 yards and Drew Yates passing for 124 yards. The Chargers converted multiple 4th down conversions throughout the game to extend their scoring drives. I think, Aaron, for Marion, they're always going to have that question of, what if Lassane doesn't get hurt in this game? And, you just got to feel for the Knights because I really do think they could have beaten this West Noble team if it wasn't for that injury. It kind of took the wind out of their sails a little bit, and that was a tough hurdle to overcome, let alone trying to beat a very solid West Noble team. So give credit to West Noble. They made the plays when they needed to, and they deserved to win that game. John Glenn 24, Fairfield 7. The game was scoreless up until Chase Miller of John Glenn scored on a 1-yard scamper in the second quarter. The PAT was no good. Fairfield responded when Carter Kitson scored on a 6-yard run. Before halftime, John Glenn added a field goal to put the score at 9-7. Fairfield was driving in the third quarter, but had to settle for a field goal attempt, and that is when John Glenn Julian McManahan blocked the 23-yard field goal and returned it for a touchdown.
Wow.
That was a huge play in that game. Tyron Larkin converted the 2-point conversion to put the hosts up 17-7. That was the play of the game, as it seemed like Fairfield was about to take the lead at that point. But the blocked field goal, huge momentum shift, and Fairfield couldn't recover from that blunder. Later in the fourth quarter, John Glenn secured the win when Miller threw a 5-yard touchdown pass to none other than Larkin himself. So, congratulations, John Glenn. And West Noble, they both advanced in sectional 26 for Class 3A. Now, I want to move on to Class 4A, sectional 17, New Prairie Cougars. This was the Battle of the Cougars, as Kankakee Valley is also called the Cougars. And New Prairie was all over Kankakee Valley. Now, interesting, Aaron, Kankakee Valley took the opening kickoff to the house, but that was the only thing really that the Cougar fans had to cheer as New Prairie took control for the remainder of that game. Noah Munguia scored 3 times. I feel like we say his name every time we talk about New Prairie. And the other key player for them, quarterback Marshall Kamesic, scored twice as well. So just a great performance for New Prairie. They dominated as they were expected and are continuing to play at a high level.
All right, if we move to Class 4A, Sectional 18, the Northwood Panthers defeated the Washington Panthers 48-14. The Panthers of Northwood cruised in this one. They scored 21 points in each of the first and second quarter. Owen Rader went 7-10 with 170 yards and 2 touchdowns, both to Nitro Tuggle. Wes Yoder had an efficient game rushing with 6 carries for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. Trevor Barrett and Ethan Evers also had rushing touchdowns in this one. The Black Crunch defense dominated with forcing 2 turnovers. One was an interception by J.J. Payne and another by Luke Miller. And then Keith Miller and Landon Zimmerman led the Panthers with 5.5 tackles apiece. The Panthers Washington Panthers that is, did score 2 rushing touchdowns in the second half when the game was already decided. Moving on to St. Joe and Plymouth. St. Joe defeated the Rockies 47-14. The Indians used a dominant first half as well to earn another week of football. They were led by quarterback Alex Ortiz, who went 9 of 10, 136 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. And Ortiz also ran it in for 2 touchdowns as well, so he was racking up the touchdowns for the Indians. 2 of his passes went to Elijah Kay, and then Hayden Miller added 2 rushing touchdowns as well. The defensive side, the Indians forced 2 turnovers, really made it hard for Plymouth to get anything going until late in the game. The Rockies scored on 2 passing strikes from quarterback Xander Ramirez. One went to Max Lewandowski and the other to Michael Gibbons. Congratulations to Northwood and St. Joe as they move on. And then the third game in the sectional is Logansport defeated Wawasee 35-14. The Berries move on, and they did it by building an early 21-0 lead at half, built on 2 touchdown runs by Jeremiah Miller. And their defense really stymied the Warriors. They were unable to score on 2 threatening drives early in the game. And then the second half, Wawasee opened it up with a 55-yard drive that ended in a Brandon Kelly touchdown run. So Wawasee did battle back in this. They would force a fumble on the Berries' first drive of the second half, but they couldn't capitalize on it. And then quarterback Isaac Mock hit Long for a second touchdown for Logansport. Long would finish with 2 receiving touchdowns, and the final Wawasee score came when quarterback Mason Shoemaker found Derek Bontrager for a 57-yard touchdown pass. But again, a little too late for Wawasee. Logansport will move on, and then the final game we'll talk about in the sectional, Northridge and Riley. Northridge won 33-12. Well, I was able to watch most of this one. The Raiders really outlasted the Wildcats pretty, they came to play in this one. I was impressed with how hard they hit. They didn't really give up in this one. The star for the Raiders was Jethro Hosteller. He was all over the field. He had 10 receptions, 219 yards receiving, and a touchdown. His touchdown really kind of ended the tightness of the game in the second quarter. Yeah, so first quarter went scoreless. Second quarter was wild quarter. Near the 7-minute mark, the Raiders scored on that Hostetler touchdown pass. And then on their next possession, their backup running back for the Raiders, Derek Sherwood, got his first real snaps on varsity play, and he took advantage of it, and he scored on a 2-yard run. Running back McLean Miller was injured in this one. the Wildcats would respond with 30 seconds left in the half when quarterback Austin White found Caleb Francis for a beautiful touchdown pass. France made a great grab and double coverage. Both Wildcat players added to their school record-setting stats. Then the very next possession, the Raiders got a little greedy in this one. They didn't run the ball or run the clock out. They tried to air it out again. Carrington tried to turn something into nothing, and he got picked off by Cortez Foster, who took it for 6. So it was a crazy end of the half there. The second half, it was kind of bizarre. The Riley abandoned the run. They went empty back. The only rushing was from scrambles from Austin White. The Raiders, however, went back to the run, and they really just kind of wore out the Wildcats' defense. That was kind of the difference in the second half. Max Petersheim had a rushing touchdown. Jackson Bontrager did as well for the Raiders. And then to really seal the deal, Carrington found Cade Signs in the back of the end zone, which was another pretty cool play, cool catch. I just want to shout out to Coach Lee and the Wildcats. Man, they finished strong. They went 5-5 this year. They seem like a team that's trending up, and hopefully they'll use this loss to kind of give them some juice this offseason and look forward to next year for this fairly young team.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Aaron. Hats off to Coach Lee. Never easy to end the season. I think there's no good way to end the season other than winning the state championship, but only a select few teams can do that.
Right.
But nothing to be ashamed of. He worked really hard. The entire team worked really hard, and I think surprised a lot of folks, local folks around here. Maybe there's excitement in that program, and the future is bright for the Wildcats.
Yeah, definitely. All right, now we're going to preview sectional semifinal games. Little update on where we're at with our picks. Will both continued some successful picks. I'm now at 31-4. You're at 28-6.
You're still winning, though. You've been winning the last several weeks. So yeah. I've got to come up with something here at the end to catch up, Aaron.
Yeah. I think the games will be harder to pick as we go for sure. So now we open up 5A and 6A sectional games. I'll start with the sectional 11. Concord 4-5 at Goshen 2-7. The Minutemen should win this one. Coach Kaler will have his guys ready and not look ahead to a possible rematch with Mishawaka. The Redhawks got a much-needed week off, but still the depth isn't there to win in the postseason yet. Coach Wagram will have his guys ready to play, but I think Concord is playing their best football right now. They should be able to impose their will. I expect Titus Hackworth Jr. to have a nice game rushing and add to his team-leading touchdown totals. And then the second game of the sectional, we have Adams 1-8 at Mishawaka, who's ranked number 4 in Class 5A and is with their record of 8-1. You know, Adams has looked good in some games against the top teams of the NIC. They lost in double overtime to Riley and lost closer once to St. Joe and Jimtown. But they got beat up by the big boys of Penn, New Prairie, and Elkhart. I think Mishawaka is like these teams. They don't beat themselves, and they have the dudes to win. And they're going to out-physical, out-tough up front for Adams. I think Mishawaka blew out common opponents that the Eagles lost to in St. Joe and Marion, which was earlier in the season, of course. I still like the Cavemen. I think they're the team to beat in this sectional, and they'll get the win. All right. Any thoughts on those games? Or
I agree. I think Concord is too good for Goshen. And the great thing about Goshen and Adams, there's absolutely no pressure.
Right.
No one thinks you can win those games. And so just have fun, play loose, put it all out there, and see what happens. I think Adams can hang with Mishawaka early, if they can make some plays and then take advantage of what they have. But both Concord and Mishawaka should win those games pretty easily.
Yeah, good. Yeah, definitely no pressure for them. So, moving on to Sectional 18, Logansport, who was ranked number 15, I don't know, I think they're still there. They're receiving votes, so they're not in the top 10. They travel to Northridge. Logansport may be without 2 starters on offense, so Isaac Mock rolled his ankle in the fourth quarter against Wawasee, and they lost running back Chris Renee, suffered a concussion early in the Wawasee game. So I think these are impactful blows if Mock can't go. Logansport is led by Coach Mike Johnson, a veteran state championship winning coach. He led Pioneer to a state title in 97, and he led the Berries to a sectional title a couple years ago in 2020. And we know the recent history of Coach Epley and the Raiders, so this is an interesting matchup. I think the Berries have beat up on teams that have really no winning seasons, so I think Chuck Freeby had that stat during the game as he was previewing this one. So I think the Raiders are going to be out without their running back McLean Miller. I'm not sure exactly, but he could be out, so that could be a factor. But I still like the Raiders to advance. I like how they're playing balanced football, which is important this time of the year. The defense is stopping the run, so we'll see if that continues in this one. And I think Northridge will return to Sectional 18 championship game. So the question is, who will meet them there? I think, that is Northwood will meet them there. So St. Joe, 4-6, takes on number 3 Northwood, who's 10-0. The Panthers are playing so well right now, haven't had a misstep yet. The Indians have some talent, but I think Northwood is just too complete of a team and too focused right now. So I just have them moving on in a rematch of last year's Sectional 18 final. And then 6A Sectional 2, the game of the week, TV 46 game of the week, Elkhart 7-2 at number 13. So Warsaw is receiving some votes. Who's 7-2? I think I said that already. An exciting matchup in this heavyweight Sectional 2. I know Will would preview the other games. The Lions have looked the part of a quality team. Only had maybe one misstep against New Prairie. They didn't really. They got outplayed for sure. So I think most people expected that to be a closer game. And Warsaw beat the teams they should have this year in conference, and they beat some pretty good non-conference teams who looked. Even Michigan City was ranked prior to the season starting. So, and then Chesterton as well, another top 15 team in 4A. Both had common opponents in Concord and Northridge. This will be a battle of style for sure. I think Elkhart would test the Tigers' defense similar to how Northwood did with their playmakers on the edge. But I'm gonna go with Warsaw. I don't feel strong about this one. I've struggled with Warsaw picks this year, so I'm gonna go with Warsaw. Might be an upset pick. I'm not really sure. I think they have the scheme that will be tough to stop. I think Elkhart could stop them. I could see them winning, but I think Warsaw will take this one.
Well, to answer your question, it would not be an upset according to the Sagarin ratings. They have Warsaw ahead of Elkhart in that Sectional 2. Now I want to go back to Logansport real quick. Of all the Sectional 18 teams, Logansport has the worst schedule strength of record at 218 ranked in the state. So yes, they're 8-2, but they haven't really played anybody. Whereas if you look at Northridge, they've got a much tougher schedule. So, and remind me, you picked Northridge in this game? Okay, I would pick Northridge too. I like that pick. just because I think that they've just had a tougher road and they're more battle tested.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna highlight more of the NIC schools here. Let's start with Sectional 33 and 2A. Real quick here, 6 and 4 Bremen at 4 and 6 Lake Station. Now of course, it's been well documented that Bremen is a roller coaster team this year with highs and lows and everything in between. But folks, Lake Station has a weak schedule. They've lost to bad teams. They've had no impressive wins. Lance Moser is going to have a huge game running the ball. They really won't need to pass much. And the Lions will advance to the sectional championship game for the second time in 3 years. Now, also in the same sectional is 6 and 3, 5th ranked Andrean 59ers at 10 and 0, number 2 ranked Laville. I know this is not the game of the week. What'd you say the game of the week was?
Warsaw and Elkhart is.
Which is a great pick. But
yeah.
if there could be 2 games of the week, this would be the other one because it's such a big game. This is the game that Laville has circled on their calendar the day they lost to Andrean last year in the tournament. Coach Hostrouser has worked tremendously hard to close the gap between them and the 59ers, especially when we talk about the physicality of the teams. One of the things that Coach Hostrouser admitted last year was Andrean was just more physically tough than they were. And so that's been the focus this year for Laville football. Now, Andrean had a bye last week, so their first game of the tournament is going to be this Friday. And so they've had an extra week to get their guys healthy, another week to prepare for Laville. Let's be honest, everybody knew that Laville was going to advance to this game. Now, for the 59ers, it's all about their senior Billy Henry. He runs the show at quarterback, where he has thrown for 1,469 yards. He has 18 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. So he's accurate with the ball. He is completing 72% of his passes for an average of 11 yards per throw. Now, Andrean's senior running back, who is committed to Notre Dame, Drake Bowen, has rushed for 738 yards for an average of 7 yards per carry. He has 13 rushing touchdowns. Now, Billy's favorite target is junior wideout Patrick Clack. Patrick has 827 yards receiving to go with 10 receiving touchdowns. Now, Andrean lost a stunner errand to Lowell Red Devils 2 weeks ago to share the Northwest Crossroads title with Lowell and Hobart. Now, had they have beaten Lowell, they would have won that conference outright. But because they lost to the Red Devils, they had to split the conference championship with those other 2 schools. Now, if you look at Andrean and Laville's team records, you might think that Laville has the edge as they are undefeated and Andrean has 3 losses. But as Lee Corso would say, not so fast. Andrean's strength of schedule is way tougher than Laville. Andrean has the better roster with athleticism, speed, power. Laville is playing at home, so I got to give the Lancers that. But losing Lucas Plummer hasn't hurt Laville yet. No disrespect to Culver or Whiting, but Laville could have put anyone at quarterback and still have beaten those teams. I do think Laville's going to feel losing Lucas Plummer this game. The 59ers will have to be laser focused on Laville rushing attack, and in particular stopping their Laville star and Paul DeWitt. The big question I have is, can Laville's offensive line win the battle in the trenches against a stout defensive front? Can Laville sustain drives and then score touchdowns in the red zone versus settling for field goals? Defensively, I do worry about Laville's ability to tackle in space against Andrean's superior athletes. I'm not sure that Laville can pressure the quarterback without losing contain or giving up big chunk plays. The Lancers need to have a bend but don't break mentality, keeping everything in front of them, and then tackling really well, and making Andrian earn every first down, earn every score they get. Pursue the ball, stay disciplined in your gaps, force field goals, cannot surrender touchdowns. Last year, Louisville lost 35-8. The gap was large between the two schools. This year, I do think Louisville will close that gap. This game will be a sellout. The entire Louisville community will be at this game. It's going to be loud. Aaron, it's going to be noisy. It's going to be a great environment for high school football. I love it. Coach Hausrauser has done a great job getting his team ready for this particular game. Louisville's coaching staff and players are going to be ready. They're going to be amped up for this game. But with that said, Aaron, I have to go with Andrian beating Louisville, albeit probably in a closer game this year, to advance to the sectional championship game against the Bremen Lions. Now, sectional, Aaron, any thoughts on Louisville before we move on?
And that would be quite the story if they could pull out this game.
We're pulling for the Lancers.
Yeah, we're going to pull for the Lancers for sure, yeah.
I apologize to the Lancers faithful if you're listening to this. I just don't think that's going to happen, though.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Class 3A, Sectional 26. We have 8-2 Jimtown at 6-4 John Glenn. Now, these two teams met back on September 9th, with Jimtown winning 20-12. These schools know each other very well. They're former NSC opponents, now obviously NIC foes. Jimtown and John Glenn both beat Riley. Key players to watch for at John Glenn are Chase Miller, Tyron Larkin, and Mason Cobell. Miller is an accurate passer. Larkin is a playmaker in space. And Cobell is a north and south, grinding out, physical runner. I think John Glenn needs to try to establish a running game early on. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go to the passing game, as they had success against Jimtown in the second half, throwing the ball. Now, Jimtown has been playing clean football for several weeks in a row, and Jimtown is on, has momentum. They're having, playing with a good groove. Must protect the football. The Jimmies have to avoid those self-inflicted wounds, like the penalties, the turnovers, the mental mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Run the football, sustain long drives, and score efficiently in the red zone. The offensive line, as a unit, is getting stronger and better as the season has progressed, in creating those running lanes for Sam Gardner and the other running backs. Now, defensively, the Jimmies need to limit the big plays and make John Glenn earn everything they get. The secondary has been playing better lately, and they need to bottle up Larkin. Jimtown and John Glenn both playing better football. John Glenn's going to be a tough opponent for the Jimmies, but I'm going to go with Jimtown winning this sectional semifinal. Aaron, thoughts on the Jimtown John Glenn game?
Yeah, I like how you broke that down. I think I like Jimtown to get another win against John Glenn. It's always tough to beat a team twice, but I think the Jimmies are, like you said, on a roll right now.
Aaron, that's a great point. But Jimtown, the staff, the players, they're on a roll. Going with the Jimmies.
Definitely.
4A sectional 17, 9-1, 6th ranked New Prairie at 7-3 Lowell Red Devils. Now, in the last 8 years, New Prairie and Lowell have met 3 times in the regional final, where New Prairie has won 2 of those 3 games. These 2 programs know each other and have played in big games. Both programs have competed in the state championship game within the past 12 years. Both programs have a winning tradition. Both programs love running the football. Aaron, do you sense a trend here?
Yeah, both teams are really good. Both programs are good.
It's going to be a great environment. They're very similar teams.
Yeah.
Now, New Prairie did beat Lowell this year 24-7. We already have talked about New Prairie this season quite extensively, so I'm going to focus on Lowell. Their senior quarterback, Riley Bank, has thrown for 463 yards, rushed for 1,526 yards, and 19 touchdowns. So he's their key player on offense in that senior quarterback, Riley Bank. Junior running back, Owen Thiel, is the other key player to watch for on offense. He has rushed for 710 yards and 5 touchdowns. Lowell's best win this season came against Andran to win a share of the conference title. New Prairie's win against Elkhart was impressive. New Prairie should win this game against Lowell, and I think they do. They have to be careful not to overlook the Red Devils, because if you let a team like Lowell hang around, then all of a sudden you're in a dogfight with an underdog that now is believing that they can win this game, and that's a scary situation to be in. I'm going to take New Prairie Cougars in this game to take down the Lowell Red Devils in this sectional semifinal. 6A, Sectional 2. Of course, Aaron broke down the other half of the sectional with the Warsaw Elkhart pick. I'm going to do the other half of that bracket with the 9-0 fifth-ranked Carroll Fort Wayne Cougars at 7-2 10th-ranked Penn Kingsman. Last year, Carroll lost to state runner-up Westfield in the regional final. This year, they are undefeated, beating the best teams in Fort Wayne, the Snyder and Fort Wayne North. Carroll is playing for a former teammate. Now, some of you may not know this, but Carroll lost Owen Shell, the would-be senior who passed away in June due to leukemia. Owen would have been likely the starting quarterback this year for Carroll High School. Instead, the Chargers I'm sorry, I did call Carroll Cougars. I think I did. They're actually the Chargers. So, Chargers are led by Homestead transfer sophomore quarterback Jimmy Sullivan. He is a 6'3" quarterback who has really done a great job for the Chargers, and a big reason why they're undefeated. He's thrown for 1,620 yards, 23 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. He is fairly accurate, 65% of the passes, completing those for an average of 12 yards per pass.
Super sophomore, Dickie V.
Super sophomore, that's correct. Carroll is averaging 180 yards passing per game. And his fellow classmate, sophomore Nathan Starks, leads the team in rushing with 833 yards and 6 touchdowns. The team averages 146 yards rushing per game. Now, Jimmy's top targets are senior Camden Hirschberger. He's 556 yards receiving this year and has corralled 5 touchdowns. And his teammate, junior Hanson Hafner, 416 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. Now, we all know Penn's rich tradition. Carroll has a winning tradition as well. Carroll is in their golden era of Charger football. They have one of the best 2-year runs in the entire program history. You have to go back to 1976 and 1977 to the last time they won 90% of their games. They won 18 out of 20 back then in 1976, 1977. Now, if they beat Penn this Friday, they will have their best 2-year run win percentage in school history at 90.9%, winning 20 of 22 games from last year and this year combined. Penn's strength and schedule is better than Carroll's. Key matchup to watch in this game is Penn's rushing attack versus Carroll's rush defense, and Carroll's pass offense and their electrifying aerial attack versus Penn's secondary. This is an intriguing matchup between Fort Wayne's best team and our area best team. Sometimes when you have Carroll, a passing team, you do worry about cold weather games in the tournament. But the forecast, last time I looked, is mid-50s and no rain, so that probably should not be a factor. Like most games, the line of scrimmage battle will determine who wins or loses this game. I'm intrigued to see who wins the war in the trenches. Carroll has the edge offensively. Penn is playing at home where they are 10-2 in the past decade in the playoffs. And one of those losses was in 2012 to this very same Carroll program. Penn is extremely well coached. It's tough to pick against Penn in the sectionals, but I like Jimmy Sullivan, that sophomore quarterback. He's putting up big numbers as a young player. He's a big reason why Carroll's second undefeated regular season in school history. I think this will be a close game and decided late, but Jimmy Sullivan and the Carroll offense will come through when they need to make a big play and come away with a big win at Penn.
Ooh. Upset. Nice.
Upset, yes. Actually, no, it's not upset. Carroll is ranked 5th in the AP poll, and Penn is 10th.
Oh, I got you, yeah.
In the AP poll. But to us local people, it would be kind of a surprise because we don't consider Carroll on the same level as Penn when it comes to, tradition and that kind of stuff. But I see where you're going with that. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to talk about topic number 3, IHSAA Fall Sport Tournament results.
You can listen to the Will and Aaron Show podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube and like our videos. Follow us on Twitter at Will Aaron Show. You can follow the Will and Aaron Show Facebook page where you can interact by commenting, liking, sharing, and reviewing our podcast.
Welcome back to the Will and Aaron Show where we're talking about local college and pro sports. We're going to talk about topic 3 here. And first off, let's talk about girls cross country. Were some exciting results that happened. Let's look at the New Prairie semi-state. Warsaw finished 3rd. Now, for those viewers and listeners that don't know, to advance to the state finals, you have to finish in the top 6 as a team or finish in the top 10 as an individual. So, Warsaw, because they finished 3rd, they do advance to the state finals as a team. In New Prairie's, Lillian Zalaska, we've been saying her name quite often in the last couple of episodes, wins the semi-state with a time of 5:49. Warsaw Josephina Rastrelli finished 3rd with a time of 6:02. So both Lillian and Josephina qualified for the state finals. Now let's look at the New Haven semi-state where Penn finished 2nd as a team, and also Penn's Mary Eubank finished 4th with a time of 5:51. Northridge's Tame Bayless finished 6th with a time of 5:57. So Penn advances to the state finals as well as Tame Bayless of Northridge. So congratulations to the lady runners there in Warsaw and Penn. Boys cross country. New Prairie semi-state, Warsaw finished 5th and qualified for the state finals. And the New Haven semi-state, Northridge finished 2nd, Penn 4th, and Goshen 6th. So how about that for local cross-country teams? A great showing there at the New Haven semi-state. William Bachetti, Mishawaka finished 2nd with a time of 4 minutes and 58 seconds, just 2 seconds behind the winner. Baylor Miller of Northridge finished 4th with a time of 5:05. He's just a freshman, so bright future there for Baylor. Tommy Claxton of Goshen finished 6th with a time of 5:07. So Northridge, Penn, and Goshen advanced to the state finals. William of Mishawaka also advanced to the state finals. So good luck to all our local runners, both girls and boys, cross-country runners at the Indiana High School cross-country state finals this coming weekend. Girls soccer, 2A Chesterton semi-state. Leo 1, Mishawaka Marion 0. Marion was runner-up last year and made it to the semi-state this year. What a run, Aaron, the Lady Knights had the last 2 years. Just unfortunate they couldn't make it back to the state finals to right the wrong of last year. But still, nothing to be ashamed of. A great 2-year run. So happy for those seniors who had all those achievements, accomplishments during their time. Boys soccer, 2A Chesterton semi-state. Mishawaka Marion 3, Fort Wayne Canterbury 2. 3 first half goals by the Knights was the difference as Marion held up a furious Canterbury comeback in the second half to defeat the defending 2A state champs. Coach House Holter, longtime Marion boys coach, is in the state championship game once again. He led the Knights to a state title in 2016. The Knights are 18-1-2, and they will face Brebeuf Jesuit Preparatory, who is 16-4-1. They play on October 29th, 11 o'clock in the morning at IUPY. So best of luck to the Marion Knights boys soccer team. In Class 3A, Kokomo Semi-State, Noblesville ends Penn's magical run, beating them 3-2. We want to say to the Penn boys team, congratulations. It's hard to lose in this fashion. So you were so close to the state finals, but nothing to be ashamed of. And well done. Great season. Volleyball, Northwood Regional. Northwood defeats New Prairie 3-0 to advance to the semi-state. And so congratulations to the Northwood Panthers on winning the regional championship. LaPorte Regional, unfortunately not good news for the Lady Warsaw Tigers. Their season ends at the LaPorte Regional. They lost to Lake Central 3-1. So, Aaron, we got several local teams still in these IHSAA tournaments. It's a super exciting time.
Yeah, definitely. Good luck to everyone.
Topic 4, college football. What a weekend again it was for college football. Notre Dame gets back to its winning ways. I was there for this game and got to see some, let's talk about Isaiah Foskey first. Wow, what a game he had. Blocked 2 punts, had 3 sacks, and was just a monster. Made huge plays, big plays when he was on the field. Logan Diggs, he was the featured running back on that 3-monster running back room for the Irish. He carried the ball 28 times for 130 yards. And really, Aaron, he's been the healthiest he's been all season, and it showed in this game against UNLV. Drew Pine threw for 205 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Notre Dame was just too much for UNLV to handle. JT Bertrand led the Irish with 7 total tackles. Rutgers 24, Indiana 17. Indiana's Jalen Lucas ran the opening kickoff, 93 yards for a touchdown. Connor Bazelak rushed for a 7-yard touchdown. And IU jumped out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter. So, Aaron, a much better start for the Hoosiers than in the past several games. Unfortunately, it's the same story as the defense allowed 24 straight points, and IU just could not hold on to their lead. Connor Bazelak threw a costly pick 6 with 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, and IU loses 24-17 to Rutgers.
Wisconsin defeated Purdue 35-24. Graham Mertz of the Badgers jumped out, led the Badgers to an early 21-0 lead at the end of the first quarter. Purdue would battle back and score 3 touchdowns in the second half, but it wasn't enough, as Wisconsin would get another 2 touchdowns on the ground in the third quarter. Kind of the key things I kind of took away: Purdue lost the turnover battle 3-1, and their defense struggled mightily to stop the pass and run. So Purdue's 4-game winning streak ends at 4, and they're going to need some serious help to win the Big Ten West.
I will say this. For Purdue fans, here's the path. Next week, Nebraska plays Illinois, and if Illinois beats Nebraska, that kind of takes care of Nebraska. But if Nebraska beats Illinois, has a huge favor for the Boilers when it comes to the Big Ten West. So I believe Purdue has 2 losses right now in the Big Ten standings. Illinois has 1 loss, and so someone has to beat Illinois. Now Purdue still has Illinois, so they still can have some control over their destiny. But they've got to be able to beat Illinois and hope that someone else also beats Illinois as well.
All right, some notable scores from college football. The rankings were from previous weeks when they played. Number 10, Oregon defeated number 9 UCLA 45-30. College game day was in Eugene for this one. Bo Nix threw 5 touchdowns. The Ducks get a much-needed win on the national stage. The Pac-12 no longer has an undefeated team. And I got this pick wrong.
Well, you know what? What a game that was.
Yeah.
And I would have picked UCLA too, Aaron. So we both would have been wrong there. College game day was there. And what a scene that was. It was interesting because, college game day is on at like 9 o'clock Eastern time.
Right.
So these guys were there at like 4 in the morning getting ready. The fans, lining up to get in. So that was, what a long day that was for, if you're an Oregon fan.
Yeah.
Or just a fan out there on the West Coast going to that college game day and then actually going to the game. So TCU, they were ranked 8th, playing 17th ranked Kansas State. Kansas State came out with a big lead in the first half, but TCU stormed back. Matt Duggan was a big reason why, threw 3 touchdowns. Kendre Miller ran for 2 touchdowns, and they overcame the deficit and remained unbeaten. And the Big 12 best shot to make the college football playoff here. LSU 45, 7th ranked Mississippi 30. Now the Tigers were down 20-17 at halftime, but they scored the next 28 points in the second half to upset Ole Miss. Daniels ran for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ole Miss could not contain Daniels. LSU limited Mississippi to just 116 yards rushing, which is well below the average of 270 yards rushing per game. So, you know what? As much as Notre Dame fans want to hate on Brian Kelly, you got to give Brian Kelly credit for what he's doing down there. LSU is now in top 25. They're 5-2, right? And he's got LSU football relevant again on the national stage. And don't look now, but that Bama LSU game is looking like it's going to be a much bigger game.
Yeah, what a win. Number 5, Clemson defeated number 14, Syracuse, 27-21. And the Tigers overcame 4 turnovers to win a big showdown of ACC unbeatens. Will Shipley ran for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Tigers, and Clemson remains unbeaten.
Aaron, it's interesting because DJ Uialega got replaced in this game because he was struggling. Now, it's interesting because the reporters asked Coach Dabo Sweeney after the game, do we have a quarterback change? And he said, absolutely no. He shut that down. DJ's our guy, but he was replaced by a different quarterback. And that quarterback spurred this comeback. Now, there was I did watch this game back, the highlights. There was a questionable penalty. It was 3rd and long, and Clemson was going to have to punt the ball away, and the Clemson quarterback was running out of bounds, and the guy barely kind of touched him, and the quarterback fell down like any player would, and they threw the flag for late hit. Well, it was interesting because the same as that thing happened against against Syracuse's quarterback, and that wasn't called. So, you know what? If you're going to call that one way, call it both ways.
Right.
But that doesn't take away from the fact that Clemson beat a very good Syracuse team, and yet a wonderful Clemson-Syracuse showdown. It seems like Clemson and Syracuse have a great game every once in a while, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so the update on the college picks here. Aaron is 13-6. I am 12-10. And let's do some more picks, Aaron.
Sounds good. Noon on ABC, 4-3 Notre Dame visits number 16, 6-1 Syracuse. Syracuse is a 2-point favorite. This game is tough. I want the Irish to win, but I have a feeling Syracuse is going to get a tough fought win in this one. I think offensively they look a little bit more complete compared to the Irish. If you look at who they played, and how they done against the competition. So I hope I'm wrong on that one.
Well, I also hope you're wrong. But I just don't trust the Irish offense. I do like our defense. I think our defense will cause problems, but how long can that defense keep Notre Dame in the game? And how much can the offense do is I think the biggest question for me. So also at noon on Fox, 7-0, number 2 Ohio State goes on the road to face 13th ranked 6-1 Penn State. Now the Buckeyes are a 14.5 point favorite. I've got Ohio State winning this game. They're playing at a high level. They're one of the elite teams in the country. However, it does make me nervous because we've seen this in years past where Ohio State, out of nowhere, they slip up and they lose a game they shouldn't. Oregon, 2021, go back to 2018 in Purdue, 2017 Iowa, we can go back more and more. But it feels like Ohio State will win this game, but I just wouldn't be surprised if Penn State plays inspired football and makes Ohio State earn the win, though.
Then at 3:30 on Fox, we have 6-1, number 9 Oklahoma State travels to number 22 and 5-2 Kansas State. I think I like Oklahoma State a little more than K-State right now. I could see K-State bouncing back at home after their tough loss at TCU. But I think the passing attack from the Cowboys, led by quarterback Sanders, will prove to be the difference in this one.
7 o'clock, ESPN, 5-2, 19th ranked Kentucky. At 7-0, number 3 ranked Tennessee. Tennessee is a 14-point favorite. I like Tennessee to win this game. Will Levis versus Hendon Hooker show. Kentucky needs to start quickly to quiet the crowd. A slow start probably will prove to be too much to overcome. Kentucky will challenge Tennessee early on. I think they stay close, but the Volunteers will pull away eventually. I like Tennessee. We're going to take our another break, and when we return, we're going to pick up and talk about NFL headline.
If you are enjoying our podcast and want to donate, please find the donation link in our show notes. Any donation, no matter how small, will make a big difference in helping us bring you better quality podcast shows.
Welcome back to the Will and Aaron Show, where we talk about local and college pro sports. Topic 5, NFL headlines. The 4-2 Tennessee Titans. They went on to defeat the Indianapolis Colts 19-10. So the Colts are now 3-3-1. The Colts were unable to come back as they have done so this season a couple of times. The Colts dug themselves in a hole early, 13-0 at halftime. Matt Ryan threw a 4-yard touchdown pass to Paris Campbell to close the gap to 13-6. Tennessee made a few field goals in the fourth, as well as the Colts made a field goal. Tennessee led 19-10 with 5 minutes to go. Colts were driving. Michael Pittman Jr. fumbles. Tennessee recovers. So Matt Ryan had 2 interceptions. And Aaron, it's hard to win NFL games when you have 3 turnovers. It was just a sloppy game for the Colts with penalties, and just the inconsistencies continue for this Colts team. And until they can kind of clean it up, they're going to be kind of an up and down team.
Yeah. Then when you hear this episode, we'll know more about the Bears, whether they pulled out a huge upset win on the road against New England, or they might have fallen to 2-5.
Other NFL headlines: Aaron Rodgers and the Packers fall to Washington on the road, 23-21. Green Bay is now 3-3.
No Christian McCaffrey, no problem. The Panthers defeat Tampa Bay 21-3. Tampa Bay falls to 3-4.
How about that, Aaron? Tom Brady and Tampa Bay 3-4. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, I did not see this coming.
That's definitely a head scratcher. Daniels plunges 1 yard for the go-ahead touchdown against Jacksonville Jaguars and the Giants. The New York Giants are 6-1. No, that's not a mistypo, or I didn't missay that. The Giants are 6-1. Let's preview the next weekend slate of games here. We just got 2 preview games here. 1 o'clock on Fox. The Chicago Bears will be at the Dallas Cowboys, who are 5-2 this year. Dallas, at this point of this recording, is a 10-point favorite. I don't think Chicago has the offensive skill set, or whatever you want to call it, to hang with the Dallas Cowboys. But you know what? I think it's just fun to see the Bears in Dallas. 2 proud programs with a lot of tradition. This is going to be a fun game to watch as a fan.
Yeah, definitely. And then the afternoon game, we have at 4:25 on Fox, the 3-4 Redskins visit Indy to take on the 3-3-1 Indianapolis Colts. Colts are a 6-point favorite. Carson Wentz revenge game, maybe. Or is he hurt? I thought I saw him on the sidelines today.
Yeah, Carson Wentz did not play, and Washington won. So, I tell you, if Washington wins the next game against Colts with their backup quarterback, I don't know. People in Washington might be wondering, hey, do we keep this guy, or do we go back to Wentz? But who knows? Okay, let's move on to our next topic. Topic number 6, the Major League Baseball playoffs. The Philadelphia Phillies, you've heard by now, they beat the San Diego Padres 4-1. Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber had key hits throughout the series. The Phillies got timely pitching as they advanced to the World Series for the first time since 2009. Bryce Harper is your NLCS MVP. He had a huge 2-run home run to get back. They were down 1 late in the game. This is game 5. And Bryce Harper had a 2-run homer to put the Phillies back on top. That was the final score. So if you're a Philadelphia Philly fan, congratulations. Your Phillies are in the World Series. The American League Conference Championship Series, the Houston Astros are leading the series right now 3-0. Are currently, as of this recording, they're playing game 4. The Yankees are winning right now in the bottom of the, I think it's second inning. And Rizzo just had a big hit to put the Yankees up 4-0. So who knows? They still got a lot of game left, but if the Yankees can win this game they force a game. I'm sorry, it's 3-0. Bottom second, 3-0. The Yankees win this, they force a game 5, and if they win that, put more pressure on her. But I think the Astros, and by the time you hear this, I think the Astros will have won the series and will face the Phillies. What do you say?
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, a lot of Red Sox fans were poking fun on Twitter about this. I think the Astros will clinch it. And it's kind of interesting. Bryce Harper finally makes a World Series, I believe. It's his first.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I could be wrong. But,
for a guy of his caliber, that's interesting that he's never been to a World Series. But, in Major League Baseball, I can see that for a lot of people. It's hard to make the World Series.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's check in on the Bulls and Pacers. The Bulls opened their first week 1-2. They got their first win in Game 1 actually in Miami, which kind of surprised some people around the league. Game 2, the Wizards were just a little bit better in the clutch in the fourth quarter. Saturday night, they got thumped by the Cavs, 128-96. Some good things if you're a Bulls fan. DeMar DeRozan looks like what he did when he left off last year. He had over 30 points in both games. In the Cavs game, Zach LaVine made his debut on the season. He looked pretty good, but the cost of that, DeRozan kind of struggled offensively, so it's going to take some time for them to gel again, I think. And then this week, they faced the defending champs, or the Eastern Conference champs, the Celtics, at home on Monday night. I think that's a pretty interesting game to start the season. Then the divisional rival, Indiana, comes into the United Center on Wednesday. And then finally, the Bulls travel to San Antonio to take on the surprising 2-1 Spurs. And then my Pacers went 1-2 as well. In Game 1, Washington led wire to wire, and they held off kind of a late fourth quarter run by Indiana. Game 2, the Spurs dominated for 3 quarters as well against the Pacers. The Pacers made a historic run in the fourth quarter to score a franchise record 49 points to close the game to a 3-point margin. Ugly defense in this game. The Pacers kind of were pressing and forcing turnovers in this one. But then they got their first win on Saturday night against the Pistons. I watched the fourth quarter because I kind of wanted to see Ivy versus Mathurin. It was a good to see this young rivalry maybe brewing again. Both teams are young. Some good things if you're a Pacers fan. Tyrese Halliburton is living up to the hype. He's averaging 25 points so far, 9.7 assists per game, which is tied for 4th in the league right now. And rookie Benedict Mathurin is averaging 24 points per game, 6 rebounds a game. He's tied for 2nd with a lot of guys for 3-pointers made at 11. And this kid looks like he plays with a passion, a chip on his shoulder, isn't afraid to trash talk. He was talking trash to Ivy and other Piston players, which, I mean, sometimes that gets a little carried away, but it's kind of good to see that he's not going to back down. And also, he's also first in points for rookies right now, and he's 5th in minutes. It's kind of interesting because he's coming off the bench, but he's leading rookies in scoring right now. He did have a shot to force overtime against the Spurs, so it's kind of cool to see him taking the clutch shot even though he missed it. So I'm really impressed what I've seen from the young guys. It's going to be a year of not really focused on wins and losses like I've said a lot. The defense is still ugly. It's just, that's what's really going to be the key for this team going forward. And then our final topic, a little check-in on the 5-7-4 in the NBA. So, Ivy has started all 3 games for the Pistons, who are now 1-2. He's looked the part. He's 4th leading scorer for rookies. 4th leading scorer for the Pistons. And they have a pretty young, talented starting 5. In his debut, he had the 4th highest scoring debut in Pistons franchise history with 19 points. I believe like Isaiah Thomas is ahead of him, and I want to say Grant Hill. I'm not quite sure about that. But yeah, Ivy looks like he could be in the Rookie of the Year race all year if he keeps this up. Unfortunately, Blake Wesley did not play in any of the first 3 San Antonio games, so he may have to wait for his shot and stay ready as the Spurs. They're kind of in a weird spot. They start 2-1, so we'll see if they're trending up or they're going to look to not care about wins and losses, which many people think they're not really caring about. Thanks for listening to the Will and Aaron Show. We'll be back next week as we discuss more local, college, and pro sports.